The studio lights blazed hot over the iconic mahogany table of the Joe Rogan Experience. Cameras rolled, coffee mugs sat half full, and the conversation between Joe Rogan and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett was already tense. From the moment she sat down, it was clear there would be no soft questions. Jasmine, dressed sharply in a navy blazer with a calm but unyielding stare, had been invited to discuss criminal justice reform and government transparency. But Joe seemed far more interested in poking at her credentials. "Let's be real here," Joe leaned forward, tapping his pen against the table. "You're a politician. And I've been looking at your track record. You call yourself a lawyer, but honestly," he smirked, "I think you're more of a fake lawyer than anything else." The air went still. The crew stopped shifting around. Even Jamie, the ever-neutral producer behind the glass, raised his eyebrows. Jasmine didn't flinch. "Excuse me," she said, her voice even but dangerous. "I mean, come on," Joe continued, "you're a TV politics lawyer. You talk a lot about justice, but I don't see you winning big legal battles. You're a public speaker, not a courtroom grinder. People like you are why Americans don't trust the system." Jasmine slowly set her coffee mug down. "So, you brought me here to insult my career?" "No," Joe said casually, "I brought you here to get the truth. If you can't handle someone questioning your resume, maybe you're not as real as you claim." A slow smile crept across Jasmine's face, the kind that made the hair on the back of Joe's neck stand up. "You know what, Joe?" she said, leaning forward. "I'll handle questions, but you might not like my answers." 41 seconds later, Jasmine reached into her blazer pocket, pulling out a thin, neatly folded document. She set it on the table with the precision of a poker player revealing her winning hand. "Since you want to talk about truth," she began, "let's talk about your truth." Joe blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "This," Jasmine said, tapping the paper, "is a sworn affidavit. It comes from a man you've had on your show, a so-called nutrition expert, who also happens to be a convicted drug trafficker. Funny thing is, according to this affidavit, you didn't just interview him, you did business with him." Joe's smirk faltered. "That's ridiculous." "Really?" Jasmine said, sliding the paper closer. "Because in this statement, he claims you bought, and I quote, special supplement packages that weren't just supplements. And it wasn't a one-time thing." The air in the room felt suddenly heavier. "You're accusing me of drug deals," Joe said, his voice rising. "That's insane." "I'm not accusing," Jasmine replied coolly. "I'm quoting your own friend, under oath. And before you try to call it fake, let me point out, this is part of an open investigation in Texas. Your name is already in the files." Jamie's voice crackled over the intercom. Joe, we might need to cut for a break." But Joe waved him off. "No, we're not cutting. We're gonna get to the bottom of this right now." Jasmine leaned back in her chair. "Oh, we will. Because I have more than just papers, Joe. I have audio." The studio suddenly felt colder. Joe's hand tapped nervously against the table, a faint rhythm betraying his otherwise calm facade. "Play it," he challenged. To be continued, Jasmine signaled to her assistant, who had been quietly seated off camera. The young woman pulled out her phone, tapped a few buttons, and connected it to the studio's sound system. A voice filled the room. It was unmistakable, Joe Rogan's. "Greater than, yeah, man, I need the special batch again. The one with the real kick. And hey, keep it off the books. You know how people talk." The recording continued, Joe laughing on the call, discussing prices, shipment times, and an upcoming UFC event where he might need extra energy. Joe's jaw tightened. "That's out of context," he snapped. That's not even what it sounds like." Jasmine folded her arms. "Really? Because the DA seems to think it sounds exactly like a drug deal. And before you accuse me of entrapment, you should know, I had nothing to do with this recording. It's from their file. I'm just making sure the public hears it." Jamie's voice came over the intercom again, lower this time. "Joe, I'm getting messages from corporate. They're, watching." Joe's face flushed, but he tried to pivot. "Look, Jasmine, you're coming on my show, trying to smear me, and—" "No, Joe," she cut in sharply. "You invited me here to question my legitimacy as a lawyer. But unlike you, I don't need to hide behind a microphone and millions of subscribers. I've argued real cases, fought real criminals, and stood up against corruption. And right now, corruption is sitting across this table. The silence in the studio was deafening. One of the camera operators mouthed, "Oh my God," to another crew member. The internet reacts. Within hours of the episode's release, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit exploded with clips of Jasmine's takedown. Headlines blared. Joe Rogan gets shut down by Jasmine Crockett, audio evidence leaks. Rogan drug deal allegations rock podcast world. Congresswoman turns tables on Joe Rogan in 41 seconds. Fans were divided. Some defended Joe, calling it an ambush. Others praised Jasmine for her courage. The audio clip was played on late-night TV, analyzed on news panels, and even remixed into viral TikTok videos. Aftermath. 2 weeks later, federal investigators confirmed that the audio was indeed part of an ongoing probe into an illicit supplement smuggling ring, one that allegedly used fitness expos as a front. While Joe publicly denied wrongdoing, the pressure was mounting. Jasmine, meanwhile, saw a surge in public support. Her campaign donations tripled. She was invited on multiple shows to discuss political transparency, though she politely declined Joe Rogan's inevitable request for a follow-up conversation. When asked in a CNN interview why she decided to reveal the evidence live on air, Jasmine simply smiled and said, "Greater than, if someone calls you fake, you either defend yourself, or you show them what's real." Final scene. Late one night, long after the public frenzy had cooled slightly, Joe sat alone in his dimly lit studio. The microphones were off. The neon on-air sign was dark. He scrolled through his phone, past headlines and angry comments, until he reached one photo, him and Jasmine, shaking hands before the show. He stared at it for a long time. And for the first time in years, Joe Rogan didn't have anything to say.